Should I
Okay.
introduce the speaker?
Yes.
Yeah,
Good
Deepa ma'am will
afternoon,
introduce.
everyone.
Yeah, Sonia madam is taking over. Yes,
Yes,
Sonia.
yes. Yeah. Yes. So good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of Kaveri College of Arts, Science and Commerce, I welcome everyone for our today's session on democracy and governance. And I request Deepa Sathe madam, Dr. Deepa Sathe madam, to introduce our today's speaker, Mukta Bhosle madam. Over to you, Deepa ma'am.
Yes, thank you, Sonia. It is a great opportunity and a pleasure to have with us Mukta Bhosle madam. And friends, let me just give you a brief idea about this whole process. As we all are aware that this democracy course has a so keeping this initiative that to make this course available from the expert, we have invited specially for this course Dr. Mukta Bhosle madam. And friends, take this entire lecture series seriously. I'm sure the inputs and the insights which will be shared by Bhosle madam will help you forever. So let me take this opportunity to introduce myself. I am firstly Dr. Deepa Sathe, head of the Department of Commerce, and in with the association of various law colleges across Pune, and due to their support and help from time to time, we are able to reach various guest speakers and experts in this field. I must express my gratitude to Soni madam. She is the professor at ILS Law College. And with this initiative, we are able to have today Mukta madam. Madam is PhD, LLM, LLB, and she has been associated with various prime institutions across Pune and outside Pune, which includes Delhi Public School and Bangalore Christ University, in Pune Abida Inamdar College, ILS Law College. She was also visiting faculty at Symbiosis Center for Distance Learning, and she has been working very closely with the department at university. So, madam, welcome to you. I'm sure this lecture series, the first lot which we are organizing from 7th to 11th of February, will benefit the student in the large numbers. And I'm sure that your experience will be good and you will be happy with our Kaveri College students. Over to you, ma'am. And
Sure.
I will request you to kindly start your session.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your kind words.
Yes, you are visible. Yeah.
Yeah. One second. Okay. I have a small request to all the students. Can you just switch on your cameras for a while so that I can see you all?
Students, please quickly start your cameras, videos.
Okay. Very good afternoon to all. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So can we start? All alert?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. You can talk to me because this is going to be an interactive session. I don't like to be the only person talking throughout the lecture. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So today we are, I think, do you know anything about this course at all? What do you expect from this course? No one? All right. This course basically is going to look at democracy and the role of governance, which you have done in your schooling days for a civics, and some of you might have also studied political science in your 10th, 12th courses. How many of you are from CBSE board? Can you just give me a number in the chat room? You can post your questions there. All right. So now, what do you mean by democracy and why is it important for you all to know about it? See, we live in a country which is governed by a government. So we need to know that which type of government which we are dealing or living in. All right. So in this, there are 3 modules which the university has laid down. The first module is about democracy, where we will study the evolution of democracy, dimensions of democracy, and of course, the Indian Constitution. This will be a brief study of Indian Constitution, not in detail. The second module is relating to decentralization. As we all know that we have a very rich tradition of decentralized governance in India. So we will look at the Panchayat Raj before independence. Then we will see what is the current state and what are the challenges relating to decentralization and democracy in India. The last module, that is the third module, will talk about governance. What is government and governance? What is the difference between the two? And what is the inclusive and exclusive models in governance? Okay. So today I thought that we'll just start off with what do you mean by democracy and the evolution of democracy. It has a nice story behind it. Okay, so what democracy we see right now was not the democracy which existed some 2500 years ago in Greece. As you might be aware that the first democracy was set up in the city states of Athens. Okay, there it was said to be the most stable form of democracy in the ancient times. But was it really democracy as we understand right now? There were, see, when we talk about democracy, we know that it is the rule of people. From where do we get that genesis? Democracy, if we cut it into 2 parts, is a formation of 2 Greek words. First one, demos is the people, and the kratos is the rule. So the rule of the people. So what really happened in the times of Greece was that they came up with a notion that we should all have a say in our government. And hence the bureaucrats that time, the higher class, decided that people will rule this state and not any kind of one ruler or any hereditary ruler which will come like monarch or in aristocracy. So they said that, okay, we'll have democracy and all people will vote, all will have their opinion in the politics of the state. But was it really good enough? The answer is no. Why? Because the demos, that is the people, the definition was very restricted to only the higher class men. Slaves were excluded. Women, of course, were excluded, and even the foreigners who were living in the city state or worked in the city state had no say in the politics of Greeks. So when we talk about such exclusion of majority of the population from political governance, then only a quarter of the total population is said to be citizens. So does that make any sense? Do you think that it is a very good achievement or a true democracy? The answer is no. So during those times, Aristotle, as you know, he is said to be the father of political science, was not happy with the model of democracy. He always said that it is a perverted form or impure form of governance because those who were ruling were also ruling when there was aristocracy. So it is not a good governance. Things changed over a period of time in Athens, and what happened is the small group who were so called as citizens started ruling on their own without taking into consideration any rights or any benefits to the general public. That is the others, the excluded class, that is the women, slaves, and the foreigners. So, in totality, later on, it again started to have aristocracy where only the bureaucrats or the higher class, the nobles, had all the power to rule. So, we see that there is a gradual emergence of democracy in Athens and in
Hello?
You are not audible.
Yeah, just a minute. Am I audible, students?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, just a minute. I think Mukta ma'am is having some problems with the internet. Let's wait for some time. Mukta madam, can you please unmute yourself? Mukta madam, please unmute yourself. Mukta ma'am, please unmute yourself.
Am I audible now?
Yes, now you
Yeah.
are audible. Yeah.
So when we see a decline of democracy that time, we saw that it was only after certain jerks in the worldwide politics which happened during the Civil War that there was a gradual what you can say awareness that no, now it is time that people have to take care of themselves and lead the government, and where then that is the time when democracy again emerged as a good trend of governance all over the world. Britain is said to be the first modern democracy because after the civil war in the 17th century it was the first to abolish royal uh, power in their country, and they established two houses in parliament. The one which is the house of commons was the elected chamber, that is where the people elected people to uh, represent them in the governance. But at that time, it was again restricted to based on the ownership of property, control of power, and so on. So the adult franchise was not open as we say now, that everyone above 18 can vote or has a say in the governance. That was not the case. It was far later that such kind of inclusion of members of the society took place in Britain. It was in the 19th century, after the Reform Act of 1832 was passed, that the working class, other than the noble class, was having a say in the uh, political infrastructure of the state. That time also only males were allowed. Did the women have the right to vote or take any kind of political decision? The answer is no. It was later in 1948 that the women got absolute right to vote. So you can see that it took them for so many years to even recognize one entire part of the population to be called as citizens for political purpose. France is no exception to this kind of situation. It started, we know that they had industrial revolution. There, that time they thought that no, right, liberty, equality, and fraternity are three very major basic principles which we need to follow. Then they started with Declaration of Rights of Man and Citizen. Mind well, here the definition of man was male. Women were not included. Slaves were not citizens at all. So what happens is again the same story. Major chunk of the society is not taken as citizens. So we see that these economies again faced problem. There was a right struggle and everything went on to say that only the noble men were voting, had a right to vote. They only were taking care. So then again there were political struggles. And later on, in 1946, women and others over here, I am talking about slaves or people with economic low background, were allowed to vote. So why am I telling you these things? Again, the United States, same story. They had the Declaration of Independence, created democracy, but slavery was still going on. Racism was still there. Social status was very important. And hence, they also took a long time for including the entire citizen, the definition of citizen to be expanded to slaves, women, and others. So you see that you can say that democracy that time was not real democracy. Okay. Why? Because as correctly explained by David Held, democracy is a form of government which has some form of political equality. Now, what do you mean by political equality? Can anyone help me with that?
Ma'am, every class people are equal before the law. Means privileged and unprivileged are on the same platform, and
Yes.
with equal rights, they can give their opinions and perform on
Yes.
political junction, etc.
Yes. Right. So when we talk about political equality, it needs to have everyone under the as the definition of citizen and not just one specific class, right? Now that is how you define or distinguish democracy from monarchy and aristocracy. Can anyone tell me who defined this government of the people, by the people, and for the people? Who gave this famous definition? This is the only definition available in all textbooks. We have learned this definition only, right? When we started with democracy as a child. Who gave this? Yes? Somebody?
Abraham Lincoln.
Yes. Was he the pioneer to start off with good democracy around the world?
Yes, ma'am.
There are many other definitions, like democracy really means more or less rule of whole people expressing their votes and everything. Now, there are two definitions which you need to know. Is one which is the Gandhian theory on democracy. Now, how many of you know about the concept of Swaraj or Ram Rajya by Gandhiji? Have you read or get along with something like that? Anybody?
Ma'am, we know about the theory that Purna Swaraj that was refuted by Bal Gangadhar Tilak. Means before Gandhi. Means it's my opinion that
That
the
is different. When we talk about Gandhian concept, he talks about Ram Raj. Have you heard about it? No one? All right. What do you mean by dharma? Dharma, not in the sense of religion, okay? I am talking about what the scriptures say. Is it nothing but the duty? Right? At least say yes or no.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So over here, Gandhian theory relating to democracy is based upon Swaraj. Swaraj, he means by is where people have the entire power. Okay? He says that people are going to have independence. They are going to be the real masters of their selves and their government. So it is based upon three things. First, independence. Second, self-respect. And the third one is oneness, that is fraternity. Right? So he gives a wholesome definition of democracy, which he wanted to apply and introduced in India, that is Swaraj. Okay, the terms which he uses are from the Shastras, okay, like Swaraj, Ram Rajya and others, but they are based upon the true nature of the Indian tradition or Indian culture. Okay, we see that when we develop such notions and we compare it with our Arthashastra and other things, they are quite similar. Now, again, if we are talking about Gandhiji, we have to talk about Nehruji, right? So he also thinks that it is not merely equality. He talks about economic and social equality as well. So, political equality, yes, you all have a right to vote. But is it enough? The answer is no, never. You need to have economic and social equality, which we will see how why are they so important when we talk about democracy. So these are a few key elements of democracy which will help you distinguish democracy from other forms of government. First, you all know is people's participation, right? That is what the definition says, government by the people. So how will they take part? It may be direct or indirectly, right? They may directly vote and come up with the head of the state, or they might elect somebody and delegate their power to elect the ultimate head of the state. Next, unlike the earlier evolution, what we saw, equal opportunity, right? Everyone, adult franchisee says everyone who is a major has a right to vote. So equal opportunity. It doesn't talk about any kind of disability in voting with regard to class, sex, that is gender, then you have economic class, nothing. Everyone above 18 free to vote. Of course, you need to be sound mind. What do you mean by sound mind? Yes? Anyone? Yes, pardon? Who is a sound-minded person? Yes, please don't sleep. Yes. Anyone? No one? A sound person is nothing but a person who can make decisions foreseeing the future. Foreseeing the future means whatever he does today, what will be the impact tomorrow, he knows about it. So today, if I put my hand in fire, I know the consequence. So I am of sound mind if I know that what will be the consequence. Right? Got it? Okay. Next. Interest of minorities to be protected. We all know that in democracy, when we are giving majority the equal opportunity, of course, the minorities also need to be protected. So how will we protect them? We will give them a chance to represent themselves in the society or in the political structure. Okay. The next thing, which is very, very important, is that all public offices are open to public. Right? Now, for example, in monarchy, you have one lineage which passes on the office, the public office, to their next generation. So will the democracy suffice its purpose in that case? The answer is no. And hence, it should be open to all public, and hence taking away any kind of chances of hereditary status or class status. The next, which is a very important part, is state, that is the public officials whom the public has nominated, elected as the head of the state or public officers are accountable to public. Okay, so the ultimate power is with the public. Now there are two types of democracy. One is the direct democracy and the other is indirect democracy. How many of you have studied? Yes. How many of you have studied this distinguish between two democracies? Anyone? Now, this is based upon the decision making and the participation, how it takes place, right? So in direct democracy, people directly take part in the decision making process. How will they do that? For example, they will fix a date, say 20th February, is the election day. So all the citizens will come together on this date and they will directly vote. Now, is it what you can say possible in all the countries right now? Is it economically viable? There will be issues if you have election on the same day all over the country, right? So there are some issues with direct democracy. So it gives a good sense of responsibility to the citizens. Now, because of there is a technical or impracticality in this direct democracy, there are very few countries where direct democracy is still practiced. One of them is Switzerland. As you know, it is a very small country, population-wise as well as area-wise, geographically. So hence, that is the country where direct democracy still exists. Indirect democracy is the common form of democracy which is applicable all around the world, where citizens don't take direct part in the decision making, but they delegate it to their elected representatives. Right? So that is what we have, or Britain has, or US has. Okay, so I gave the answer. Which type of democracy do we follow? Which is it? Can someone confirm it?
Indirect democracy.
Right. So, direct democracy, there are certain pros and cons. First one is vote actually counts. So, each and every citizen is very important because they are directly taking part. Total transparency. Why? Because there is no one in between. You know what you voted. If it is the majority, you know what is going to happen next. Directly. You are not delegating your power to anyone. Government is directly accountable. If you are in the parliament, sitting over there, giving your decision, and if the public officer has done something wrong, he is removed, decisions are taken, finished. The citizen has the total power. Less segregation, more collaboration. Why? Because ultimately you need to come to a certain conclusion, right? When you are making any decision. So collaboration, most important. The time which is needed to take a decision is far less because it's not going through layers, it is direct. So any action which needs to be taken in the best of the interest of the population, taken quickly. You will have what you can say better control over your uh, better control over the entire state policy making. So quality of life will also improve if you think today that no, this economic need needs to be taken care of. Equal distribution of say grains should be given because there is problem during lockdown. Okay, decision is taken, no problem. Fast. Voting becomes more of a responsibility. You know that if you vote, if you take that decision, it's going to directly affect me. It becomes a responsibility, right? Cons. Of course, if you are 10 in a group, taking a decision is easy, right? And if you are 100 in a class, taking a decision is always going to be difficult. Why? Because you will have people from all sets of life. Each one thinks about things differently. Everyone has their own view. So, decision making is always difficult if you want to have direct democracy on a large scale, right? If you want to have direct democracy in India, is it possible? Is it possible? Yes? Anyone?
No, ma'am, not possible.
Why?
Because of the large population.
Large population, yes. And anyone else? Why is it not possible to have direct democracy in India? Population, of course. Large population. Can we all move to Delhi at one day and say that this is the president we want to have, this is the prime minister we want to have?
No.
Of course not. Traveling itself is going to be a problem. Gathering at one place is going to be a problem. Why? Geographically huge country, of course, right? So it's not possible to elect the governor over here in one place in Mumbai. What about Delhi? So, of course, it's not possible. Everyone may not be willing to participate. Today, I am not in a mood to participate in an election. Okay, I'm not going. We can do that in indirect democracy, but what about direct democracy? You can't afford to do that in direct democracy because it becomes your responsibility. You are directly accountable to everyone because each vote counts over there. It will be very costly, of course, and extreme manipulation. Every person has his or her own intention. We are people. We are humans. We tend to have certain kind of notions. We are selfish, and hence we have certain agendas in our life. Right? So one section of the society, for example, the industry, they want to have more economic freedom. They want to raise their prices. They want to have capitalistic kind of view. But is it possible for the poor or the economically lower class to have such kind of capitalistic mindset? No, of course, they want certain concession to have their livelihood, right? So again, when people become selfish, there is a big crowd, there will be extreme manipulation, right? Humans are not always reasonable. Their decisions may be based on emotions. So if you are taking a decision on behalf of the entire country, you need to be more reasonable and less emotional. Is it possible for you and me to do that every time? Yes, is it possible to have a neutral view only in the general interest, not thinking about me and taking a decision? Is it possible? If anyone says yes, please do. Can you do that? Please talk. It's not a one-way traffic. It's a two-way lane. Yes? Anyone? I'm not moving to the next slide. My God. Okay, I give up. Next, indirect democracy. Pros. Is it efficient? Yes. Decision making is more balanced? Yes, because less number of heads coming from different backgrounds have a little more time and sense to give a more balanced kind of decision. People choose their representatives. So delegation of power. It reduces and cuts shorts with the number of heads who will go and make the decision. It's easier to find a solution with a small group of people putting their expert heads rather than having the entire population thinking about the same thing, who are either not thinking properly or don't have the expertise to do so. Am I saying that all politicians have expertise? The answer is no. But the helping hands, okay, the officers do have their heads properly, and they can always give suggestions, good suggestions, which again helps in proper decision making. It encourages participation, of course. You don't have to move all along. Go to your nearby booth and vote. How many of you have voted till now? Last election? Now we will have soon, but what is your age right now? Some 18 to 19, everyone?
41, ma'am.
Yes and no both?
Yeah.
Yeah. So all are eligible to vote in this class?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. So next time, do get registered right now and contribute. Okay. This is our problem. You might be well aware. Misplaced trust. Okay, I trusted this fellow, this chap who will do well in the parliament, but turned out to be a problem. Okay, I admit. What can I do? Better luck next time. Self-interest. The parties always have their own agendas along with the national agenda. So that is a problem with the delegated representatives. Encourages deceptive election practices. Yes, we all are aware. We have seen people doing wrong things during election. Benefit the majority. Yes, because majority of the votes, that is the person who is going to go and represent us. Lack of accountability for elected officials. Yes, there are very few things which we can actually do. For example, if I realize that this person is not good enough, I want to change after the elections. Can I do that? The answer is no, right? Yes. Somebody wanted to say something.
Yeah, I just answered that it's no.
Yeah. So when we talk about what is democracy, the key things and everything, the direct and the indirect democracy, there are certain things which are basic requirements of democracy. If you don't have these things in your constitution of your country or in the structure, political structure, then you are not following the democratic form of government. Okay, so the principles which need to be there is liberty. First one is liberty. Now, what do you mean by liberty? Is it only freedom to do whatever I want to do? When we talk about democracy, is it only related to freedom to vote to person whoever I want to vote? The answer is no. Okay. It is not restricted to voting. It is not restricted to the idea of political liberty only. Why? Participation. The answer is no. For example, say if we have an emergency situation in the country, is it that only the person who is ruling in the ruling party has a say or in the decision making? The answer is no. even the opposition party or the other experts who are also representing the public have a say in the decision making. They are also consulted. So both giving an opinion in a positive way or a negative, that is a criticism, is welcomed in democracy. That is how you keep a check on the ruling party. Criticism is always positive, not what you think of freedom of thought and expression, not always. It needs to be restricted by public policy and public opinion. Right? So liberty over here is not only giving a vote, but also decision making later on. If I don't want it, I can always raise my opinion. How many of you are aware that whenever there is a law which is passed relating to general public, not the taxation and other things, but the other, for example, if I want to have a amendment in family law, if I want to have, say, uniform civil code, so can the government directly come up with a bill, or do they have a public poll before the actual making of the bill? Any idea? Any idea? Okay. Public poll is always taken when the bill is introduced in the parliament, when the decision is being made. Public also, all the representatives also have the chance to give their opinion. That is nothing but true freedom of thought and expression. Okay? It's not what I want to speak on Twitter or Facebook, that is freedom of expression. No, it needs to be there. Concrete freedom should be there when you want to oppose or uphold any kind of decision relating to the state. Next is equality. All have, irrespective of your caste, creed, gender, social, economic status, everyone can vote, right? Equality to earn also. All kinds of equalities, social, economic, political, everything. If I want to have a established party today, do I have a right? Can I establish a political party today? Am I given the liberty and equality? Will I be at the same par of the other political parties in my area?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So that is equality. The next thing is fraternity. Why do you think fraternity is so important? What is fraternity?
Mutual support.
Mutual support, oneness, unity, brotherhood. Is it necessary to govern a state?
Sometimes to avoid conflicts and maintain peace.
Yes, correct. Very true. Do you think people are the ultimate source of sovereignty? If you don't elect anybody, who is going to get into power? Nobody. If there are no elections, no one is going to get to power. So of course we are the ultimate source of the power. Fundamental rights, independence of judiciary, are they interlinked? The answer is yes. Now, what do you mean by fundamental rights? Fundamental rights are the basic rights which each and every individual or human being needs to have to develop as a person. Are we animals who can only say, for example, you are given food, water, shelter, bas ho gaya. Will you develop with that?
No, absolutely not.
No, we are not animals. We are social animals. So we need more. Hmm? We need to have certain rights of expression. We need to have right to carry on our business. We need to have a right to educate ourselves. So these are fundamental rights, basic rights for each and every individual who needs to advance and develop. Next is independence of judiciary. Now, for example, if the fundamental rights which are there, if they are violated, if they are violated by the state, then what happens is you cannot go against the state just like that. Even if you go and if the judiciary is controlled by the government, then of course the decision is going to be on the in the favor of the government. So we need to have an independent judiciary. What do you mean by independent judiciary? I just gave the answer. You have to just pick up the lines. Yes, anyone? The appointment of judiciary should be devoid of any kind of executive or legislative pressure. The judge should be independent and can take decision as per the facts which are given in front of him and not in favor, inherently favor of somebody. Okay, that is independence of judiciary, which plays a very, very important part. People are more important than state. Yes, because we are the sovereign power. So we need to be more important than state. That means the state is going to work for us and we are not going to work for the state. For example, if you take a monarchy, the head of the monarch is always going to just have everything in his plate and is going to enjoy it. People are going to work hard to put everything on his plate, right? Here it is opposite. It is the people for whom the government is going to work. So if there is any section of the society who needs help, the state is responsible to make policies to give aid to that person. Right? That is nothing but welfare. Are we a welfare state? Does our government take care of us or are we taking care of the government?
We are a welfare state, ma'am.
We are a welfare state. Can you give me an example? Can somebody give me an example why we are called to be a welfare state? Yes. How can we say that we are a welfare state?
Students, please reply. It's an interactive session for you.
Providing all kinds of aids like to the families.
Yes. All the employment schemes, healthcare schemes, your vaccination scheme, all these schemes are for the welfare of the society, right? You have regulation of, say, pension plans which are there, where the employer is also made to contribute to your pension fund. That is nothing but your welfareistic kind of. Now, moving on to the different dimensions of democracy. We have seen the key parts. What are the key requisites? So, these key requisites are responsible for forming the dimensions of democracy. As you know, the three which we need to know is the social dimension, economic dimension, and the political dimension. Right? Everywhere there are certain things. For example, when we talk about freedom, equality, fraternity, they are the form of social democracy where we are aiming at having a social equality. We are building a nation on the basis of equality, where nobody is going to be given more favors or somebody is going to be deprived of their rights. Now, when everyone in the world were talking about social democracy or the social dimension of democracy, slavery was still being practiced in few countries. Okay, women were not given equal rights. Maybe it may be equal pay for equal work. It may be minimum wages for the lower class. Everywhere there were problems relating to social equality, right? Then you have the UN, which was formed and it passed two covenants, right? Which talks about the fundamental, the first one talks about the fundamental civil, political, economic, social, and cultural rights. It talks about equality on all these matters. And the second one was relating to your cultural, economic, and other. So the entire, what you can say, the international community came together to recognize this social equality which is needed to have or impose good social democracy. And thus we find that the fundamental rights which were there are the core values for any kind of legal claims or any kind of schemes which need to be made by the state. So whenever a state is making policy, they need to see whether they are hampering or doing any kind of damage to the fundamental rights or not. If they are, then the law is going to be a bad law, right? So these fundamental rights, these basic rights were needed to be enshrined, that is imbibed in the constitutions of the democratic country. Today, I'm not going to talk about Indian democracy or the Indian constitution. We are going to do it tomorrow. Today, we are going to understand the worldwide perspective of democracy. So, the six core freedoms which are upheld by the UN, UDHR, are the first one is right to equality, right to freedom, right against exploitation, freedom of religion, education, educational and cultural rights. Then you have the right to constitutional rights. These are the six rights which are compulsory be embedded in your constitution. So if you have a fair idea about the Indian constitution, do we have these? Or is any one of them missing in our constitution? Do we have all six? Are you sure? No? We don't have a single one?
Not sure, ma'am.
Not sure? Okay. we'll see if we have all the 6 fundamental rights in our constitution tomorrow. Okay, so you can also read a little bit and come tomorrow so that many of you can answer and not just 2 or 3. Text part is the economic dimension. Now remember Nehruji's definition of democracy. He talked about social and economic equality along with political democracy, right? So what do you mean by economic democracy? It talks about any decision making made power which is there, which is going to uplift the broader public and not just one class. You cannot ignore any kind of economic class from economic democracy. Everyone is equal. Okay. Now, and the other thing is the capitalism had, earlier we had capitalism to a certain extent. It had made a huge gap between the higher class and the lower. Democracy is going to aim at reducing this gap. Okay, by way of economic and social equality. Why? Because if the gap is huge, we all saw that what happened in the earlier times. We had industrial revolution, we had civil wars, everything. Whenever there is a huge gap between two economic classes, what happens is there is bound to be conflict. So we need to bridge that gap. So now when we talk about India, we have 3 classes: high class, middle class, and the poor class. Now this middle class which is there, it acts as a buffer. You might have studied in your economics. Do you study economics? Most of you? Some of you?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So what is the major role of this middle class in buffering the gap? Does they play any role? Do they play?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So is it important that the government only takes care of the middle class? Will it be fair
No,
to
ma'am.
have economic democracy? No. You need to have equality, equal status, equal provisions for everyone. Then only you will have economic democracy. We will see as to how India is going about. Next is political democracy. Of course, the people will choose their leaders, hold their leaders accountable for their policies, and they are going to see to it that they conduct their office properly. So what is the mechanism? Are you aware of any mechanism where how we can catch hold of any public officer or leader who is not carrying out their responsibilities properly? Do you know about any kind of forum which takes care of this? Or is it only the IPC who will take care of it? What is IPC?
Indian
No
Penal
one?
Code.
Yes?
Indian Penal Code.
Yes, Indian Penal Code. So if any leader is not acting according to the responsibilities of his office, can you go and sue him in the court of law under IPC, or is it somewhere else you will go?
No, ma'am, we go to the court.
You will go to the court. Is it under the criminal code or any other? Yes.
I'm not sure if it's criminal or civil.
Okay. Okay. Next, we will. I think during governance we can talk about it at length so that we know where to go if somebody is not working properly, right? We need to know that, right? As a citizen, do we?
Yes.
See, this course is not merely a theoretical course. It is going to open your horizon to know actually what you can do to make it a better place. We can't just go on blabbering that this government is not doing good, this is not happening, that is not happening. No, we should take responsibility. After all, we are the sovereign, right? The thing is that for political democracy, again, we need to have decentralized system so that it works well. So we need to have governments at national, now in our case state and local levels, so that the problems of each level can be taken care by the respective branches of government. Then what do we need to have? First of all, we need to have fair and free elections. Do you pay to vote? Do you go there now? It will be your first election, I guess. But have you heard anyone paying to vote?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Everyone has a
No,
right.
ma'am.
No. It is free. That means you go to the polling booth, you show your ID, and you vote. They are not going to charge you, say, give 10 rupees, buy this pass, and then go. No, it is free elections. Why? Because it is your political right. Next, government is based on the consent of the governed. So tomorrow, if the maximum majority of the population start thinking that no, this government which is there right now, okay, is not serving our purpose, is not doing a good job, can we overthrow the government? The answer is yes. The representatives which we have, of course you can. Okay. Now, the power flows from the people to the leaders of the government, and the government leaders are going to hold their power for a temporary period of time. And that is the reason why we have regular intervals at which the elections have to take. Otherwise, the post will be for lifetime. Can we afford to have a political leader or any person XYZ for entire life doing the same governmental job?
No.
No, ma'am.
No.
Never.
Right? So that will all take away the essence of democracy. It will be called as what kind of government it will be if it is for lifetime? If it is a single person who is going to take care of the government throughout his lifetime with no elections later on, it will be a form of which government?
Monarchy.
Monarchy. And if it is a group of people, okay, say for example 10 people who are going to run the entire country throughout their lifetime, or only their people, then it will be a form of aristocracy, aristocrats, that is the nobles, few people, or one class or a set of people governing the entire country or the state. Okay, it will not be a democracy. Fine.
And then what is oligarchy? Or whatever.
Aristocracy, oligarchy is the class governments, the guilds who are governing. Okay, so
Okay, ma'am. Okay.
yeah. So this is a conclusion slide, but it is not the conclusion of my lecture. Don't worry. So this
Ma'am?
is the place where you are going to speak. Okay.
Ma'am,
I have, huh?
doubt.
Yes, please.
Ma'am, can one party system be called as a
Democracy?
no, ma'am, aristocracy? I was about to say.
Yes. It will be some form of aristocracy. See, now with passage of time, we cannot have a strict definition of any kind of government. Every government will have its own flavors. Okay, few changes here and there, adaptation according to their needs of their state. Okay, so for example, strict democracy. Now, democracy in USA, democracy in India, democracy in UK or Japan, whatever it is, can you say that they are all same?
No, ma'am.
No, we have adapted to whatever situations we have, right? And accordingly, our principles have been laid out. The basic theme is democracy, but the flavors are different. Okay, दाल सबके घर में बनती है, लेकिन हर एक घर की दाल सेम होती है क्या टेस्ट में?
No, ma'am.
नहीं. Same is with the type of democracy or any form of government. Alright. So can somebody throw light on what do they now understand by democracy?
Democracy is by the people, for the people, and of the people.
Okay, so that is what you understood by the entire thing.
No, I just gave the definition.
Else? Yes, anyone else?
Control of an organization or group by the majority of its members and for the people.
Okay. So do you think it really works? Does democracy work? We'll do one thing. We will start off with our cameras because I need to know if you have understood. Yes, just like in your class, I think now it's time. Yeah, please switch on your cameras. Let me see your faces, nice faces, and know whether you have understood. Or is it only me who was talking the whole time? Right.
No, ma'am, we understood.
You understood? Good.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay. So do you really think it works? Democracy works? If you have your cameras on, you can at least nod your head so that I know that you have understood. And your opinion as well.
Yes, ma'am. I think it works.
It works, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there anyone who thinks that it doesn't work? If you think it doesn't work, then what kind of government do you think is better? Is it dictatorship, monarchy, aristocracy, or any other kind of governance you think will be better? Maybe you can talk for only
Democracy,
India.
democracy is much better than any other form for India.
Much better, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Can anyone else elaborate? I can see only 3 cameras. Yes, students. Yes, any other kind of government anyone thinks will be more appropriate for India? I have 1 vote for democracy. Others? Okay, do you think the world at large, the entire world international community, did they understand the true form of democracy, or is it that only thing is that people get the power to vote and other things so we can go on with the governance? Is it like that, or people have really understood the true form or true nature of democracy? Say, for example, for me, democracy is a feeling where you are actually responsible as a citizen, all right? And where instead of just criticizing person not doing, you take an effort to do things correctly, right? That is the true sense of democracy, where the people have the power to change. People have the power to actually govern, right? So tomorrow, if I don't like something, I will go and raise my voice in a good way, not in a violent way, of course. So do you think that this is the true sense of democracy, or is it only once in 5 years you go and vote? Do we vote every 5 years? That is the interval of between the elections. Oh, come on.
Yes, ma'am. 5 years.
What is democracy? Do you think it really works? If no, then the other things, please write short notes on all these questions. At least take down these questions and try to think about it and formulate a few questions. It might help you in your course, in your exam. And this is the small exercise. As we have seen that we have seen the meaning and nature, we have seen the evolution and growth, right? And we have seen the various conceptions relating to democracy, the prerequisites, and the dimensions. Is there any doubt relating to the entire? Is there any doubt? Anyone? Okay, I will just briefly tell you as to what do you expect from the class tomorrow, and do a little bit of background research, a little bit of study, and please come. Tomorrow we will see Indian Constitution, the basic principles which are there in the Constitution. What are the prerequisites for democracy? Do we satisfy those prerequisites? And how well formulated or ill formulated is the Constitution? Okay, so we will learn about it. I hope that you will go back and research a little bit around it. Will that be fine?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, can I see everyone's face right now? Let me see how much you have understood. How many were attentive?
I don't have a webcam on my PC.
Okay. Yes, others, please. It's compulsory right now. No option given. It's a humble request. Please turn on your cameras. Okay. How many of you understood whatever I told you? Please give a thumbs up. All right. Was there any problem in language? Anyone needs me to explain in some other language? I know only 3 languages: English, Marathi, and Hindi. Not other than that, sorry. If anyone needs any help in other language, please let me know. If you want, you can put it in the chat box. Okay? Right? If you want me to explain any concept in any other language, I don't think my English is that bad that it cannot be understood. It's fine. Okay. Now, how many of you have read about democracy and Indian Constitution earlier? I know about CBSE, they had some part of their political science which dealt with Indian Constitution. How many of you are aware about it? You can just write it in your comment section as well so that I know. How many of you are interested in knowing your constitution? That is the fun question. Are you interested in knowing and studying Indian constitution? Not the entire law, but small bits and pieces which are concerned, which are directly related to you. How many of you are? Mind well, it doesn't only talk about your fundamental right, it talks also about fundamental duties which we will be doing. Right? As a citizen, we also have certain duties towards our government and the state. All right. So I think we'll stop our discussion today till here. Who is the in charge teacher? Deepa ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Can I end the lecture for today, or do you want me to continue? I'll start with Indian Constitution.
Ma'am, up to you, as per your convenience. If you want to end
No,
it,
I think
we have no
I will
problem
stop
if you...
for democracy here. Huh.
Okay. Yes.
And start with the Indian Constitution tomorrow, so that it goes with one link.
Okay, no problem at all.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
I hope everyone is there tomorrow. Fine.
Yes, everyone will be there tomorrow, and thank you very much, ma'am, for today's session.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, so to students, we are ending the session now. Okay, and thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.